$99, 1 carat $6.99, and 1 carat studs $3.99. Thousands of items guaranteed to appraise for double. The Jewelry Exchange Bethesda.
Good morning, America. All eyes on the market this morning after that record-breaking plunge. The Dow closing nearly 1,200 points down, the largest one-day drop in history. Now Wall Street bracing for another rocky day.
New twist in the Russia investigation. President Trump's lawyers now warning him against sitting down with the special counsel. And live on GMA this morning, the former Trump advisor at the center of that secret GOP memo. Was he working with Russia?
Quentin Tarantino breaks his silence, now telling his side of the story about that dangerous Kill Bill stunt that Uma Thurman called dehumanizing to the point of death, saying it left her permanently damaged.
Lady Doritos, the clash over the Doritos Crunch. The brand riding high after the successful Super Bowl ad, but now facing some backlash for what their CEO said about snacks for women.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
And good morning, America. Hope you're well this Tuesday morning. A little controversy coming to the Super Bowl as after all.
Yeah, but somebody's riding high after that Super Bowl, George. Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Nick Foles, Super Bowl MVP, celebrating his win at the Disney parade of all places, of course. He even fist bumped Mickey.
It's kind of a fist bump.
It's flu season, too, so, you know, don't give Mickey the flu,
right.
Nick.
He's got a big paw.
Exactly.
That's right. It has been quite a ride for him, but we're going to start with that wild ride on Wall Street. Americans closely watching the market this morning after that record-breaking drop. When the closing bell rang on Monday, the Dow Jones was down 1,175 points. ABC's chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, starts us off. And Rebecca, we're seeing markets around the world reacting.
That's right, Robin. Good morning to all of you. And we're seeing markets selling off around the globe overnight. This morning, the Dow also poised to open lower, but it's been fluctuating a lot. And if you look at this last month, the month of February, stocks have now wiped out over $1 trillion in value. And that's just in the span of a few days. In the span of the last 5 days, the Dow now down 8%. And to put that into real terms, Robin, if you had invested $1,000 in the market 1 week ago, today you would have closer to $920. You would have lost about $80 on that bet, Michael.
Oh, wow. Well, it seemed like the economy is strong. So what set this off?
And this is what's surprising to a lot of people, because things have been improving. If you've looked at the jobless rate, that unemployment rate is low. You look at wages, those are climbing at the fastest pace in 8 years. And that's actually part of the issue here. That has sparked fear. The improving economy has sparked fear that after a decade of rock bottom interest rates, the Federal Reserve will start hiking interest rates to prevent inflation. And as those rates go up, loans get more expensive, people and businesses spend less. That can weigh on the overall economy. And remember, let's put this into context here. Stocks have been rising now for the last 9 years, almost consistently over those last 9 years, up 160%. Pretty unusual to see such a dramatic climb for such an extended period of time. And many on Wall Street have been saying, at what point is the stock market going to better reflect what's happening in the real economy? If you're in the real economy, you've been saying, why is the market up so much? I don't necessarily feel that the market should be up this much. Now we're coming back down to that reality moment.
Yeah, as you both know, investors get nervous when they see numbers like this drop.
Yeah.
But historically, as you say, it always corrects itself.
And that's the most important thing, Robin and Michael. When you're thinking about the long term here, the hardest thing to do is often the best thing to do. Staying the course. It's a lot easier said than done, but investing for the long term, starting young, giving yourself and your portfolio the time to recover. This is the thing that works for people over time. And if I want to put this into context for people, if you had pulled out at the bottom of the market during the Great Recession, you would have lost a lot. If you had stayed the course within 3 years, you'd have all that money back and then some.
Within 3 years?
In 3 years.
After the Great Depression?
Yes.
Stay the course.
Yes.
3 words.
Like we said, easier said than done sometimes. All right. Thank you both. George?
Thank you, guys. Overnight, several new developments in the Russia investigation. I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, John Karl. And, John, the big headline, President's legal team now taking a stand against Robert Mueller, advising the president against a wide-ranging interview with the special counsel.
There's a lot of negotiation going on here. Mueller has made it clear he wants to talk to the president. His legal team is trying to negotiate to have simply a written Q&A. They've told the president it would be a bad idea to go into a full-range interview with the special counsel, a very risky thing. And George, I've got to tell you, I've spoken to some of the president's closest outside advisors who say it would be a disaster, but they also believe ultimately that he will not be able to avoid sitting down with the special counsel.
Right. Chris Christie here on GMA last week said he didn't think the president should testify either. Meantime, we're also seeing the president's former top strategist, Steve Bannon. He's not going to appear before and answer questions before the House Intelligence Committee today?
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth. He had been before the committee earlier and refused to answer any questions about his interactions with the president in the White House or during the transition. Now Bannon is saying he's not going to come unless the terms of this interview can be worked out. A lot of negotiating going on there. But I can tell you this, George, Bannon has told others that he knows that although he can play this game with the committee, there is no way that he can avoid answering all questions with the special counsel. Executive privilege works with Congress. It doesn't work when you're sitting down with a special counsel.
Meantime, the controversy over that House Intelligence Committee memo dealing with the wiretapping of the former Foreign Policy Advisor Carter Page continues. The Democrats, they've now voted to release the Democrats' memo as well, and that's on the president's desk.
It is, and it was a unanimous vote. All the Republicans, all the Democrats voted to release it. Now the president has 5 days to decide whether or not he wants to block it. Advisors tell me he's inclined to allow it to be released. We'll see.
Okay, John Carl, thanks very much. We're joined now by the man at the center of this memo, the controversy, Carter Page. Carter Page, thanks for joining us this morning. You say this Republican memo that was released shows that the abuse of your civil rights was even worse than you imagined. Why?
There is no basis for it. If you think about our Constitution, due process rights, freedom of, First Amendment rights, it was just shredded, the Constitution. So,
as you know, you can't get a warrant like this, a wiretapping warrant like this, unless they can demonstrate probable cause you were working as a foreign agent. And you actually had been on the FBI's radar for working for Russia for several years. You were the target of a Russian recruitment effort back in 2013. The FBI interviewed you about that, correct?
I was a witness to a case that they were doing, so I was supporting the FBI in that case.
Right. You gave documents, though, to someone they believe they charged with espionage.
See, this is sort of spin, because I was teaching a course down Broadway here at NYU, and I told him a couple of things about what I was talking about in my course, and I gave him a couple of my notes the documents that I gave my students. So in terms of, it sounds, when you say giving documents to a quote-unquote spy, and it's in a couple of courses. Yeah. Well, it sounds a lot worse than reality, but that's reality.
You also wrote just a couple months after that, in September 2013, to an academic press, saying this was reported by Time magazine, over the past half year, I've had the privilege to serve as an informal advisor to the staff of the Kremlin. So you were recruited at one point by a Russian agent. Then you wrote yourself that you're an informal advisor to the Kremlin. So that does lead people to believe, is this guy working with Russia?
Well, first of all, it's the G20 summit was in St. Petersburg that year, and they were bringing together people from around the world. And so a lot of people were from literally Australia, UK, here.
But these are your words. I served as an informal advisor to the staff of the Kremlin. You're advising the Kremlin.
There was a lot of people advising. We were part of an informal group, and meeting in Geneva, Paris. We had a meeting in the New York Stock Exchange. The first meeting was in the New York Stock Exchange, the center of capitalism.
But
right?
You can understand how that would raise questions and could lead to probable cause. On the one hand, at one point you say you're an advisor to the Kremlin, then you're an advisor to Donald Trump.
Look, the probable cause, based on all the evidence that keeps dripping out and now has been further substantiated with the Friday, first memo, is that it was based on that dodgy dossier, which was, a political stunt, which is unfortunate, which is false evidence. So if you talk about obstruction of justice, that's real obstruction.
Well, in fact, as you know, the Democrats have said it was not based just on that dossier. They've said there were other reasons, and this was an application that was renewed at least 3 times by people who worked for President Trump, as well by judges appointed by Republican presidents.
Well, it'll be interesting. I appreciate the New York Times putting in their request for the
FISA
FISA
all
court.
the underlying documents.
I look forward. I hope they get it. Yep.
What do you think that's going to show?
I have no idea. What I've seen thus far is just complete ridiculousness. The fact that this dodgy dossier and news reports, when a lot of same newspaper, New York Times, was pitched this information by Mr. Steele, and they said, no way.
But you've been under surveillance from the court since October 2016. Since that time, have you ever spoken to Donald Trump?
I never spoke with him since. I never spoke with him any time in my life.
You've never spoken to Donald Trump in your life?
Nope.
No email, no text, nothing like that?
Never.
Carter Page, thanks very much.
Thanks, George.
Let's go over to Michael.
All right, thank you, George. Now to that winter blast, leading to massive pileups across the Midwest, killing at least 13 people. A Dancing with the Stars tour bus in one of those crashes. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. But now a new storm is moving in, and Alex Perez is in Chicago with more. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, Michael. Complicating things underneath all of this fresh snow in many areas, there's a dangerous layer of ice. Once this snow started falling, it kept coming, creating some massive problems. This morning, the deadly blast of winter weather being blamed for 13 deaths across the Midwest. Snow, ice, and whipping winds leading to a string of crashes along highways like I-35 in Iowa, where this massive pileup left at least one person dead.
Watched, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 cars just start piling up.
The collision involving almost 50 vehicles, including a tour bus carrying some of the cast and crew of Dancing with the Stars. Only minor injuries were reported, prompting last season's winner Jordan Fisher to send out this tweet, thanking God for the safety of our crew. Down this stretch of Missouri highway, overturned semis and cars left entangled. The icy asphalt on Nebraska roads leaving vehicles without traction, some spinning out of control. In Massachusetts, this school bus slammed into a home. This car in Chicago losing control on a busy highway, spinning across multiple lanes before crashing into the median. Across the Midwest, the morning commute is expected to be a mess, and we're not in the clear just yet. Another more widespread storm is already on the way. Michael?
All right, thank you, Alex. And you're right, the new storm, it is forming in the south, and it's targeting the northeast. Ginger, you've been tracking all of that.
And we've got those advisories and warnings, winter storm watches that go from Sherman, Texas, all the way to Rumford, Maine. And you can see why this storm is going to make its way. It's already started in parts of the Rockies, and now it'll make ice. And I'm talking ice from northern Arkansas right through, say, Paducah, Kentucky. And the timing of this is today through tomorrow morning. Then the low is right here. It could be a very messy start from Washington, D.C. right through New York City. Guys, it's not just the snow, in some places 6 to 12 inches, but ice on top of that. In some areas, you could see up to a ½ inch. Michael?
All right, thank you, Ginger.
Always the ice.
Yes, the ice is the one thing, you know, you kind of misjudge sometimes as a driver.
You're right about that. But now to the nationwide flu epidemic, one of the deadliest, as you know, in years. Experts say it's going to get worse before it gets better. One school district in Georgia hit especially hard. At least 50 school bus drivers are recovering from the flu. ABC's Adrienne Bankert is here with the latest. Good morning, Adrienne.
Good morning to you too, Robin. The harsh reality is that schools all over the country aren't just having their campuses disinfected, but after some young children and in a recent case, a teacher died, they'll have grief counselors on hand to comfort students and staff. This morning, Heather Holland's family in shock. The beloved second-grade teacher dead after complications from the flu.
Everybody talked very highly of her, so it's really tough.
Holland had been sick less than a week, admitted and then released from a Weatherford, Texas hospital. 2 days later, she was rushed back by paramedics, but it was too late. She leaves behind a husband and 2 young children. Also in North Texas, in Fort Worth, Brian Herndon barely survived the flu and pneumonia, hospitalized over 4 weeks on a breathing tube.
One minute you've got the flu, and the next minute you're septic.
His organs shut down. Blood clots forced doctors to perform multiple amputations. 7-year-old Savannah Jesse of Columbus, Indiana, died suddenly after testing positive for the flu, just 1 day after being rushed to the hospital.
Everybody is devastated. You'd never expect it to happen to you.
In New York City, 2 children are now confirmed dead from flu-related illness. One of them, 8-year-old Emily Baez, who lived here in Queens.
I feel bad for the parents.
Nearly 15,000 have been hospitalized for flu-related illnesses, double the number of last season, the highest ever seen. According to the CDC, at least 53 children have died from the flu across the U.S. Doctors say the best defense is still a flu shot. So even if you already have the flu but didn't get vaccinated, the CDC recommends getting a flu shot once you're better, since you could still come down with a different strain of flu. Very dangerous this season.
I know they keep emphasizing it's not too late to get that shot.
That's right.
Okay, Adrian.
Thank you, guys. We're going to move on now to newly released 911 calls from that devastating train crash in South Carolina. It reveals the chaos on board as the train barreled onto the wrong track. ABC Steve Osensami has the latest.
Everything is everywhere. We wrecked on a train.
These were the calls from the train for someone to come help and to come fast.
There's babies on here bleeding out their head. It's a lot of people hurt.
It's just moments after an Amtrak train on its way to Miami crashed head-on into a freight train sitting on the tracks in South Carolina. Federal investigators say that the train engineer realized the rail switch was set wrong, sending his train to the track where the freight train was parked. But by the time he put on the brakes, it was already too late.
That switch should have been lined so that Amtrak could have continued southbound as planned.
Amtrak says that CSX was controlling the switches on that track manually, and that late Saturday or early Sunday, after they moved one of their freight trains from the main line, the switch was not flipped back. When Amtrak 91 arrived, it too was shifted onto that same side track, and in less than 700 feet, slammed into the parked freight train at more than 50 miles an hour.
How many are injured?
I can't go right now. I cannot walk through because the car is bent.
The seats came up off the floor. Glass came out all over the train. Just bodies laying everywhere on top of one another.
The trains are running normally this morning. People are getting on their way at the train station directly behind me. 2 people were killed in the accident in South Carolina. More than 100 people were hurt. We're told that switch was locked with a padlock. George?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Steve, thanks very much. Michael?
Thank you, George. And now to the world's most powerful rocket. Getting ready for liftoff. You're looking live at the massive Falcon Heavy. SpaceX is planning to launch it towards Mars this afternoon. Victor Okendo joins us now from the launch site in Titusville, Florida. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Michael. There is that Falcon Heavy rocket. Today is the big day for SpaceX, and its founder, Elon Musk, will be launching not 1, but 2 of his babies into space. First, the Falcon Heavy rocket, and inside of it will be one of his Tesla cars, a cherry red roadster, kind of like this one, just clearly a little bit bigger than this Matchbox car. Take a look at this animation video released by SpaceX. It's going to show the mission. The Falcon Heavy rocket is massive. It is larger than anything that has launched since the Saturn V mission that NASA used for the Apollo moon landings. The goal here, to orbit Mars. Now, this is an unmanned mission, aside from the test dummy that's in the front seat of that Tesla Roadster. By the way, I'm sure you heard it there. This mission comes complete with a soundtrack appropriately set to David Bowie's Life on Mars. ABC News got access to the rocket on the launch pad. So much history here. Now a new generation of rocket just about ready for liftoff. Launch is scheduled for 1:30. People have come from all over the world to see this. Even Harrison Ford is here. After all, the Falcon Heavy was named after the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. Michael?
All right.
And Victor, what's the total cost here?
Oh, there's your big number to that one, Michael. $90 million. Elon Musk is spending a whopping $90 million to send his red car to the red planet.
All right, Victor, thank you. Wow. Going to get back to Ginger now. There's heavy rain in the south from that new storm.
Yes, and they need it. So there are pockets of severe and extreme drought from anywhere in Mississippi through Alabama and Georgia. But with this cold front, going to come 2 to 3 inches of rain. Your local weather in 30 seconds. First, the Tuesday trivia brought to you by Breathe Right.
Yeah, so Mom's got this cold. Hashtag stuffy nose. Hashtag no sleep. I got it. Hashtag mouth breather.
Yep, we've got a mouth breather. Well, just put on a Breathe Right strip and pow! It instantly opens your nose up to 38% more than cold medicine alone. So you can breathe and sleep. Go to breatheright.com today to request a free sample.
Hey, today, cold stepping out the door. We're dry, though, for both your morning and your afternoon drive. Temperatures get up into the mid-40s today. No issues whatsoever. Problem comes after midnight with freezing rain and ice developing. And the National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory covering much of the area all the way down to Prince William and Prince George's County. Again, till mid-morning tomorrow. Your temperature is right at that critical mark. It's 30 to 34 degrees. We'll switch over to all rain after about lunchtime tomorrow.
And coming up, Quentin Tarantino is now telling his side of the story about that car crash on set that Uma Thurman says left her permanently damaged.
And a woman reported missing, then found competing for love on The Bachelor. Well, Ari is saying all about it all. Guess when they said don't tell anybody, she listened.
At GE Appliances, our dryers come with a laundry can wait feature.